This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was cold.
What'd you do? What did you do to get that done?
She's gonna have copies too.
Oh, good.
There's
All right, great. Yeah. Download.
And did it, but also here too.
What's that?
That shows everything you downloaded recently.
Oh, you're done already? Thank you.
You're gonna get a PIN number prompt.
So you went
So
to
it's gonna ask
download.
you for a PIN number for you to
Yeah.
type in.
Every time?
Every time, instead of a password, it'll replace it. So you set,
You give me the PIN number?
you
or
create
I
one,
Create it.
you set it the first time, and then you can change it whenever you want.
All right.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And Tim, when you reboot your laptop, same thing.
I've run through
It's good. You're already connected to the network here.
Okay.
So it took care of it.
Well, I like that. That's even worth it.
And Chuck, can I have you come by my office? Thanks.
Okay, 9 o'clock. Start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks everyone for coming to the boardroom. Okay, number 2 is approve the agenda.
Move to approve as amended by deleting the 2 claims from SB Construction.
Okay, and also Mark has a change order, so there's 2 amendments to the agenda. Will they understand? Okay,
Where are we putting the change order?
yeah. So after 17 maybe? 17. And then, like Chuck said, the claims for SG Construction are struck. They didn't turn in the paperwork.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second for the amended agenda. All in favor
Aye.
and opposed? Motion carries. So we've got a couple minutes before a public hearing. Cindy, you could entertain us.
You didn't tell me ahead of time, I'm not
Okay.
prepared. I know there was some kind of change order in the.
What's VABA? Meet VABA requirements. Mark, come on,
Build America.
build America. Oh, wow.
Did
There's
you
the
see that
headlight.
about the
Yeah.
hunting? Gary?
It said to meet
On page
VABA
1, you can no
requirements.
longer hunt on your own property. She said. I didn't
That's
know
their choice, but yeah, I would think so.
that. I didn't know that. Makes sense, though.
Okay, it's 9:05. Open the public hearing on a proposal to vacate and convey a certain platted county road within Washington Township. The public hearing notice was published. Okay. And all the
Published.
people were.
Everybody was contacted.
You guys here for that, or? Yeah, okay. You wanna speak, or you wanna?
Well, we're
Nope,
just
you're
here,
good with it, or?
yeah, we're just here on our behalf of
For our half.
the area that
Oh,
we take
okay,
care of.
I gotcha, okay.
We should Doyle was here. He's
Yeah, we're fine.
right behind.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, the other property owners there, so everybody's good? Everybody receive any comments, or?
I've not received any
No.
comments.
I haven't done
I haven't.
anything, no.
Okay, okay,
I move the public hearing closed.
okay, Chuck, make a motion to
I'll
close.
second.
And Gary? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Public hearing is closed. Number 4 is consider approval of resolution vacating and conveying a certain platted county road within Washington Township.
So moved.
I'll second.
Resolution,
Tell you right now, I'm not a good driver. Okay, Nicely?
Aye.
That scares you?
tell them when they come in to be on.
Side,
Aye.
Wondra?
Aye.
And Tracy.
Motion carries.
Didn't you hear?
Okay, number 5 is the consent agenda. The Tuesday, April 29th board minutes, claims for payment, a tax abatement resolution, and those claims minus the S&G construction.
That's separate, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, yes. Yeah, to what? Strike that last thing I said. Okay.
Building project claims are a separate item. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
We have a resolution.
Gotcha.
Nicely,
Aye.
Wondra?
Aye.
Side,
Aye.
Holmes,
Aye.
Tracy.
Aye. Motion carries. And now number 6 is the claims for the Board of Health EMS building project. You see, we're skipping the S&G, so we have an Arnold refrigeration, $48,059.83. Another one for Arnold, $26,874.93. Morfeld Electric, $17,479.60. And the EMS portion, $52,90.21. Elite Fire Sprinkler Systems, $59,555.50, and another one for them for $33,117. Take a motion.
Make a motion to pay the claims as indicated.
I'll second.
Motion in a second. Anybody with discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, time for public input. Anybody here to talk about anything that isn't on the agenda? Anybody online? Okay, we'll move on then. Get an update from the Best You Coalition.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay.
My name is Amanda Rogers, and today I'm here representing the Best You Coalition. We are a substance use prevention, mental health awareness group in Keokuk. We serve both youth and adults. I just wanted to stop by today to give kind of a quarterly update on some really exciting things that we have coming up. Actually, some of them are this week, and then next week, and then a couple weeks from now. So I'm gonna throw it all in there, overload you. On the first page is just some basic information about our grant funding, some of the projects overall that we work on. And then I just gave kind of a quick update on the back of some of the save the dates and some of our free alcohol and tobacco training that are coming up. I do want to point out what I did not put in the youth and Keokuk group on the back there because I just did all the math. That was hard for me. So I was talking to my youth leadership group, which is primarily 6th through 8th graders this year. And we had done all of our data entry between September and the end of March. And I was quite impressed by what came back after I put everything in. So I wanted to share that because I'm very proud of them. I know they're very excited. Between this core group here, they've volunteered 524 hours this year so far, between September and end of March, and they have served 2,717 people. And that does not include, like I said, April and all the events that we have coming up yet in May. So very impressive this year for that group. Speaking of that group, the next page in this little packet here is advertising our Teen Fun Fair. It's not a great creative name. I couldn't come up with anything else. I'm just gonna go with it. I'm actually bringing together, with the help of the youth leadership group, of course, a bunch of different agencies in Keokuk to provide an afternoon of free fun for youth in Keokuk. We're going to be serving all 6th through 12th graders that want to hop over to the Y after school tomorrow and come and experience all of this. We're going to be having Keokuk Police Department with the Fatal Vision drunk goggles, and they're going to be talking about the dangers of even a little alcohol use and how much that can impair you. I've got ads coming. They're going to be having activities and things around marijuana, THC, and problem gambling. I've got Chris Kemper coming. She is our Lee County grant holder for the tobacco grant money that comes from the state, I believe. She's bringing real pig's lungs. They're super awesome. I just want to touch them, but they won't let me. But the kids get to like blow them up and release them, and one is like before smoking, it's a healthy lung, and one is after, so it's very interactive, very cool. The YMCA is going to be having like basketball competitions. The Lighthouse Project is going to be talking about mental health because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And then the youth leadership group themselves are going to be doing an ice bucket challenge, not in the gym though, outside the gym. We got to be nice about it. And that's just having kids pledge to ask for help when they need it, whether it's for mental health or substance use prevention. So that will be tomorrow from 1:30 to 4 at the Horner YMCA. It's open to all youth, 6th through 12th grade. The next page is our upcoming free presentation. We do these twice a year as a coalition. We host them. This year we are bringing in Patty Treble-Leeds. She's a Master of Social Work. She's a highly regarded professional in this field, and she's going to be talking about compassion fatigue. If you're not familiar with that, it's kind of described as the cost of caring. So anyone who cares for others, moms, teachers, local government, anybody, elected officials, anybody that cares for others, this is a great presentation. It's meant both for individuals and for like entire teams of people to kind of keep everybody above water, so to speak, because you get worn down caring for others. It can be a lot of work. This will be a Zoom only presentation. It's on the 13th of May from 4 to 6 p.m. At the bottom of this sheet, there's a QR code you can scan to register, or there is the link to register. You can also find this on our Facebook page as well. The next sheet is alcohol and tobacco training. I know I've talked a lot about this in the past, so I'll just kind of be brief about it. But this is to benefit not only our community and the youth, to keep them limited access, if you will, to alcohol, tobacco, nicotine, and other products that are at a certain age restriction. But it also empowers the business staff. It helps them when it comes to compliance check time. It just creates this universal training. We have 3 dates coming up in May. 2 are going to be held in Keokuk, and 1 is going to be held at the Sheriff's Office. Those are all listed here. And to attend, again, it's for anyone who works in this industry. If you sell or serve, if you are an employee, if you are an owner, if you're a manager, this is training for you. Finally, the last page there is our upcoming Keokuk Parent Cafe. This month, it will be on Thursday, May 22nd from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. It's held at the Old Wells Cary School Building in Keokuk. It is free. Dinner and childcare are provided. This is a great opportunity for parents to come together, to form positive relationships, to peer mentor one another, just to learn and grow from each other. It's a very positive, laid-back environment. So that's here, and we ask that you register by 5:15. QR code's on the flyer. Again, this is all on our Facebook page, just so we make sure we have enough food. And then if I may, I don't have it in here, but since I don't think you're here, Thrive Fort Madison also is doing a parent cafe in Fort Madison. That one is on Wednesday, May 21st from 4:30 to 6:30. That's held at the Fort Madison Senior High. And again, dinner and childcare provided. Registration is on their Facebook page.
Wow.
I know lots going on, right?
Thank you.
Any questions or anything I can answer?
I just want to thank you guys for the work you do. I mean, it's obvious that you guys put a lot of time, energy into this, and volunteerism is at an all-time high for you guys, it seems like. And so that's rare. And that basically tells me that what you're doing is valued by the community and that people are willing to step up and get that done. And I think I may, that one was an interesting one I saw here, compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna see if my time's open for that one.
Well, and it's free and it's Zoom only. It's
Yeah.
pretty convenient.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Have you been across the bridge to Missouri lately?
Like to look at products and what they're selling
Yeah,
or?
what
Or
the cost
gigantic
of new
signs
signs.
saying we have the bad stuff here.
Yeah, yeah. We have that on the Illinois side too a little bit.
Right across the board.
Really?
Hawks have really put up a nice sign.
It's very big.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
That's why we believe educating and giving youth access is so important because access is only gonna continue to grow, I think, over time.
Yeah.
Keeps going, so.
Money in it, they're gonna do it.
Well, and I've been seeing a lot of the vaping side of stuff too. I've been seeing stuff online and that. Hopefully the knowledge is getting out there that that's not necessarily a safe alternative.
Yeah,
Mm.
It's worse.
Come.
So, thank you for what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda, for coming. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, number 9 is consider approval of Children First Fiscal Agent Agreement. Ginger. Same thing.
I move to approve.
I mean, it's-
I'll second.
Nothing's changed. Or-
Nothing has changed. This is the same template we've used for 17 years, give or take. I just changed the dates and the dollar amount.
Okay. All right.
This is an agreement that a month ago we would never have thought we would be making.
Yes, so very thankful.
That's great.
One more year.
One more. Okay, we have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Number 10, approve the 2025 DERA grant program certification. Ben?
So, the acronym is for the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act. So
Okay.
we have participated in this grant in the past. We submitted 3 applications and all 3 were successful. We've replaced a total of 6 trucks so far. We're submitting for another one. The cost has risen substantially in just 5 years, and we're up to a single dump truck runs. We're estimating $250,000 for this application. So at 35% grant reimbursement, the award there would be 85 or 85. So anyway, we just need you to, if you would, approve the certification. We'll have the grant application in this week, and then we'll just wait to hear whether or not we're awarded.
Good deal.
We got anything in? I would move that we approve the 2025 DERA grant program certification.
A second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other questions for Ben? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. 11, discussion and possible action on a feasibility study for a single courthouse. Al
Hi.
is here. Yes.
So-
I guess my thoughts were, we've been talking about possibly closing the Fort Madison courthouse and moving everything statewide down into the Keokuk courthouse, but we need somebody to tell us if that's even feasible, if everything would even fit there.
Yeah.
So,
I know, right? We just received, I think we all received an email as well from,
Heidi Baker?
yep, with the court basically saying that, hey, that they've got that information that's out there. I think they're updating that.
Updating it,
There's, if
Yeah,
there's any
I haven't
updates to be
received
made.
it
I
yet.
haven't yet, no.
Okay.
And so really, I guess my feeling is that what we need to do is exactly what Denise said, is find out if it's even possible, because that's really going to keep things moving one way or another. There's basically three choices in my mind where things can go. We either stay status quo, keep doing what we're doing, and then in likely 10 to 15 years, we're going to be right back to where we were a few years back, tuck pointing both buildings, air conditioning units, heating units, and all the maintenance tails, which equated to over $1 million between the two. Or we look at downsizing from having two properties that we're paying heat, air conditioning, maintenance costs, insurance, and everything that goes with that. So I think we need to look at the feasibility. So there's three options. One, we stay status quo, which means we're going to be right back to doing what we've always done, and then having a huge financial tail that goes with that. Number two, which that's where this feasibility study comes in, if the court system will fit in Fort Madison, we all know, we can see with just visual eyes, it will not fit in Keokuk. It won't fit in Fort Madison. We can see that with our eyes. So if we do the feasibility study to see if it will fit in Keokuk, then that's an option that we can potentially do. And then the third option, of course, is build a new one, in my mind. So there's either status quo, goes to Keokuk, or we build a new one. But to answer where we even begin, we have to see if it'll even fit.
Last night, we kind of looked at that, and even if it would fit with regard to the state, we may have to push out a few county departments to other locations, which might mean we would have to lease other properties or not.
No,
So we have other properties available.
available.
We have them available.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
buildings we can use,
We have in Keokuk.
in here.
And so again, I think step one, again, is just, is it even possible?
Yeah.
We believe it. I believe it is. I believe it's possible, but I'm just a guy eyeballing it. What we need to do is have a study confirm that says, yes, it will fit, or no, it won't fit. If it won't fit, then we know that's not an option. Now you're left with two: build a new one or keep going with what we're doing. So to validate whether we can or can't, and once we validate that it will fit, part of that feasibility study, I think, needs to include a possible cost to what it would cost to put it in there, because then you got to determine whether you want to spend the money to do that, or look at one of the other two options: keep things the way they are, or build a new one. But I think step one is, will it even fit? Then we know whether Keokuk's even an option. We know Fort Madison's not. Is Keokuk an option?
I'm wondering too, if, should we include what it would take to put the treasurer's office over at the Heritage Center?
If
And
the study comes back and says that it won't.
The assessors, yeah.
I would say that if it comes back and the study says, yeah, it will fit in there, but you're going to have to displace all the county offices, then we need to include the cost of what it would cost to keep them in possibly the Heritage Building or wherever we decide would go in Keokuk. But I think step one is just, will it fit?
Okay.
Is my thought. But I think we need to keep an eye on that. And I think we need to do due diligence. And I think this is part of due diligence, is finding out what we believe, or what I believe we could do, is true or not. And the only way to do that is to actually have a study where you've got an architect or a firm that does that, says, yep, here's the square footage, here's what it is, it'll fit. But this is what it displaces.
Is this something that Southeast Iowa Regional Planning could do or not? Could that be beyond their ability?
I think that they're probably, for them to do it, they'd end up hiring, I'm gonna guess, an architect or somebody along that line. I think Carl
I've had some preliminary talks with Carl Nelson. They have somebody on staff that could assist us in getting that going.
Is that something that we would have to bid out though?
From the feedback that I have received from them, we were gonna try to just kind of help us and guide us in the right direction.
Oh, okay.
Of what we would need. As far as, and as Gary said, it's probably gonna involve an architect at that point, because an architect is gonna be the one who's gonna be able to get you costs of doing such a thing. And at that point, I think you probably would go out for a bid for an architect, or at least a firm that could guide that.
Okay. This was a recommendation from the building committee, correct? To do a feasibility study?
Yeah.
Wasn't that done 4 or 5 years ago when we voted down the single courthouse thing out there by
A
the jail?
feasibility study?
Yeah, I thought they did that. They said you needed 4 court
Yeah,
rooms,
they did.
and that only the Kilcook facility was large enough to.
That's what the state court system told us. That's what they wanted. That's their wish list.
That goes back to the email. She's getting us the updated, if anything has changed or not changed with, and it may have gone down because with video court and stuff, maybe they don't need quite as much space. But with the technologies that evolved over the last, it's been more than 5 years because I've been on the board almost 5 years. So probably the last, was that 10 years ago? I don't know what year it was done.
I don't know.
2016.
Was it
So
2016?
Yeah. Was it?
so it's almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, right, time flies. So, we just want to make sure that we're getting the updated, what it is, whether it's larger, I can't imagine it would be larger or smaller, hopefully. And if it'll fit, then we just need to see what it would cost to do that. Because I think we need to make decisions with our eyes wide open, and the focus is cost savings, is shrinking county government and shrinking our footprint as far as our buildings, which will help reduce our insurance costs, our energy costs, and just our overall costs.
Our overhead.
Our overhead.
Yeah.
And so that's the focus, my focus, and I believe the focus of the board. But I'm all for conducting a feasibility test because then we know, we're not guessing. Right now I can guess, but all I'm doing is eyeballing stuff.
And the ATEC fund, I'm assuming you pay for this?
We got, I mean, in theory, yeah, I mean, the board could have that done. Yep, we just need to keep our eye on, as one member of the board, my thing would be we need to keep our eye on the ball when it comes to the ATEC fund in the building that we're building right now to make sure that we have enough funds that if we have any overages there that we're there. But yeah, but for the study, I can't imagine the study would be too expensive to be able to not be covered by the ATEC funds, which I think we got over $1 million in the ATEC funds. They're right at it.
Close to it.
Close to it.
Yeah, Ted?
It's Ted Stein. Just a quick question, probably not a quick answer, but I'm wondering, and I don't have any concern about whether you do or don't build a new courthouse building. I'm just curious, what will become of the existing facilities?
That was my question.
Those are all considerations that we'd have to take into once we have the information. And so here was my initial thought, and I've said this publicly a couple different times over the years, and it's become focus and then slid off a focus and then come back. But we put, when I say we, the county has put a lot of money into both buildings in the last 4 years, 5 years. So they're in the best shape that they've been in recent history right now. And so my thought is, especially with the Fort Madison facility, that it would be, it's small enough and located enough to where I believe it would be marketable and have the potential to be sold to a private investor or someone who's looking to put that back onto the tax rolls and be able to, then they take over the maintenance in the building and the taxes and all the stuff that goes into that. Keokuk would be way more problematic. And that would be something that, in my mind, is something that, we'd have to consider, but first we need to see if it'll fit. To me, Keokuk is a large enough building in the center of town that if we were to choose to build a new one and move away from that, then that would be a very large building with potentially not a lot of investors wanting to take something like that on or over. And so I think that's a consideration that we'd have to look at.
Wouldn't that almost be more desirable if you got a bigger building? If you got a market group or somebody else wanted to come in there, they got a bigger building, make more apartments out of that. That'd be more desirable. Office spaces. I mean,
in theory, yes. But I think right now we still need to get back to question step one: will it fit? Because and then what's the cost associated with retrofitting it to be able to do the job? And so, and then we start looking at all of those, exactly what you're bringing up, Ted, is that we look at, okay, what's the impact if we were to go somewhere else and build a new one somewhere else? But right now, again, no one that I've talked to or anyone believes that we could fit a single courthouse in the Fort Madison site. It's just not possible. The physical layout doesn't make sense. It doesn't have enough square footage. It just will not fit.
I think Ross has told us that. A number
Yes.
of months ago, he told us that. It's
In
not
the
right.
court, it just won't fit. There's
No.
belief, but no facts, architectural drawings, engineering that says, but there is a belief that it would fit into Keokuk Courthouse. So I think step one for us in this process, and I believe this study is going to figure it all out for us. This just gives us step one in a journey to get to an answer.
With the Norfolk County having the historical prison on there, are we allowed to sell that, or is that, how's that, since that's a historical site on there? How's that all work?
We still own them. It's just that we get $1 a year or whatever from this.
Yeah, we used to.
I know, but I mean, are you allowed to sell the whole?
Again, those are all questions we'd have to
We can
look
take it
at.
off of the historical list.
You can.
We researched that one time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little process, but you can take it off.
But I don't know if you're looking
So
for.
do we speak to Carl Nelson first, or how do we move forward from just
If you-
get his preliminary opinion as to how to move forward?
Yeah, we didn't get that far in conversation, other than they were willing to help us begin the process.
I guess I'd make a motion that we empower Mark to research and bring a recommendation to us back to conduct a feasibility study on a single courthouse. And then he can come back to us, let us know what the process is, and if we need to, and the cost associated with the study. So I'd make that motion.
Second.
All right, motion in a second. Any other discussion on that? Nope, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, consider approval of lease agreement with Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation in Keokuk. They are in the Bank Street building, I guess we call it. So, and they've been there for a few years. So this just made the changes to the dates, and you did up the rent a little bit.
Yep, and they actually did their own lease agreement, sent it back, Ross approved, and
Okay.
so all good.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I make the motion that we approve the lease agreement with Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation.
Second that.
Okay, motion in a second. Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. 13, consider approval of third and final reading of the siting and operation of wind, solar, and battery energy systems ordinance.
So I know Ted handed out a handout from Des Moines County Public Meeting of what in Des Moines County. I did kind of thumb through it, and a lot of what is in it we have addressed, talked about, or discussed. The numbers that they're using, some of the numbers that are suggested by it are not the numbers, obviously, that we use. But I think we hit a lot of what is being discussed in here. Other than the comments that we've had at the things, I've not received a lot of comment outside of the public meetings that we've had and here.
I haven't heard from anyone outside of
I haven't either.
that.
And I've also not heard anything from any further information from the current, I guess, any of the current solar, wind, or energy people. So.
Well, and I think it's important that we get as much as we have in place, protecting both sides, and then down the line, as industry changes, as situations change, whatever, we can amend. But I think it's important to get the ordinance in place.
And that was one, I did notice that in the Des Moines County, that's one of the things they were worried about, is that they want to make sure that they get something on the books, and we've taken 5 months, I want to say.
And they've taken the idea of the moratorium off the books. They're not going to look at that.
So I'd make the motion that we approve the third and final reading of the siting and operation of wind, solar, and battery energy systems ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion in a second. I do want a roll call, if you don't mind. Okay. Side,
Aye.
Holmes,
Aye.
Wondra,
Aye.
Nicely,
Aye.
Crazy. Aye. Motion carries. Consider approval of resolution adopting fee schedule for siting permits for commercial wind energy system, commercial solar energy system, and or commercial battery energy storage system. And this came from the fire.
Nope.
No, this is just for the permitting, not for the emergency
Oh,
response.
So I think emergency response is next, possibly next week.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
I'd move to approve the resolution adopting the fee schedule for siting permit.
I'll second that.
Motion in a second, any discussion? Resolution, Nicely.
Aye.
Side,
Aye.
Holmes,
Aye.
Wondra,
Aye.
Bracy. Aye. 15, approval for airfare travel to Dallas, Texas for AFDO Annual Educational Conference, June 21st through June 25th. That's one Lee County Health Department employee.
I move to approve these expenses.
Second.
It's usually paid by a grant, isn't it?
Yes.
It's covered, most of it's covered by the grant.
Usually
I think it's, yeah,
Almost all of it.
it's just the airfare, I think,
Yeah.
is what they're looking at. I brought it up at the health department board meeting as well, as I think it's good that we have people go and attend these, state and national events, because it gives us education on what's going on around the nation. We can see things coming. The other thing is that it opens us up to the possibility of other grant opportunities that we may not have been aware of. Number two, and then number three, like I said, nationally, it puts us, are we ahead, behind, or about where we should be in technologies and current trends that are going on? And I think we're in a pretty good place right now,
I think we are,
is
yeah.
what he indicated. But I think, if we're just sending one employee, it's not, it's something that, in my mind, it's educational for them, and it benefits us.
Is that a motion?
I need a motion.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
It's at Dallas in June. If anybody wants to go meet in June.
That's true. Okay, we have a motion in a second. No, no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 16, discussion and approval to remove Kim Spear from Pilot Grove Savings Bank accounts and add Carrie Barnes to the main payroll bank account at Pilot Grove Savings Bank.
So move.
Changes going on in the auditor's office. Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Nope, we're good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. 17, consider approval of resolution terminating 20 agreement with MHASEI Mental Health Region.
Is this all with the move, I assume, that's happening while we're doing this? Okay.
Yes.
And Ryan is on, so this is your.
Yes, this is the termination of the MHDS region system. So as required by HHS, there is a period of time that we've designated through November 30th. That will be the closeout of the region. And during that time, there will be some modifications to Lee County, specifically agenda and budgeting, but those are all as related to region designated funds that come from the fiscal agent. So what we're asking for today is all of our member counties of the 2080 agreement that comprises the Mahassee region is to sign off on this resolution. And then in November, it will be filed with the Secretary of State's office to officially close out that business. Mind you, we will carry liability for a period of 1 year. So that's 6 months post that November 30th, and that is through ICAP also. So in the event, and hopefully it does not happen, but in the event that there is any kind of outstanding liability associated with that of the region, there will be liability coverage during that period of time also.
Okay.
I'd just like to say, we are currently looking at the justice involved coordinator position at the sheriff's office. If this mental health remains open through November 30th, would they continue to pay the salary for that position rather than the salary being paid for by opioid funds?
The region will only pay for services rendered in FY25. That is all the state allocation allows. And there will only be 2 staff remaining that will close out all of the administrative processes of the region. So that was a long answer to no. JIS.
The opioid requirement is that funding not supplant or replace funding that is otherwise available. And you're saying it's not available.
Right.
Right.
No funding for it.
That is it. Yep.
I move to approve the resolution terminating 2080.
Second.
Okay. A motion and a second. Any other questions for Ryan? Resolution.
Nicely,
Aye.
Holmes,
Aye.
Side,
Aye.
Wondra,
Aye.
Frazee.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, man.
Okay. We have the change order for the new building for interior finishes. It's,
These are changes, actually increasing price difference change to satisfy our Made in America requirements for USDA.
okay.
It'll come out of contingency on the contract.
I move that we approve the change orders.
Second.
Now, okay, discussion is, play Matt Moorfield here. How come this wasn't done from the onset?
Yeah, change in price, trying to find something that satisfies.
Okay,
Satisfies
this
the
made me.
requirements of BABA.
Okay, this to meet BABA requirements. They should have known that, shouldn't they?
But it's why they built the contingency.
That's why we have a contingency fund.
Okay,
in there,
how much
too.
is our contingency?
It's
I'm saying this is-
500,000, just
Half a million.
500,000, we're
Half a
way
million.
below it, we're not even
Is
close.
it? Okay, all right.
But still, a good point. An estimate ahead of time is you look at this stuff, you say, hey, I gotta meet this requirement when you're bidding the process at the beginning.
But, okay. I'll take a motion.
We got the motion in second.
We did. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, reports, the ARPA annual report to the U.S. Treasury. Thank you, Chuck Vandenberg. It's just receiving files, just for your information. We've got personnel actions, a step increase for the health department, 3 of them, from the position transfer from EMS. I did ask Ginger about this, because I thought the health department wasn't doing step increases anymore. I mean, other than everybody else gets a raise, the 1.5 for one the quarter, right?
I think,
They're doing step increases like all the other departments.
so they're not part of our, my understanding is that you are though working with them to try to get them folded into our step increase form. So the health department
I'm
has.
meeting with them this week
All right.
specifically to talk about the
Okay,
wage
yeah.
scale and how that's all
I don't think
structured.
their step increases ever stop.
I know.
They did for like 2 years and then they
No, but I
started,
mean,
they started right back up. They don't, you're right.
They don't stop.
And that's been a discussion over time, with them. And I think right now, like I said, the Ginger is working with them and they're taking a serious look at that. I think they should, to fall in line with our personnel policy. I think they should fall in line with our personnel policy as.
Why is it that they don't already?
There's been a number of different things that the amount of PTO they're able to carry forward, several things have been separate, partly because they have an independent board. That is the situation we have with a couple of different units of our local government, is when they have their own independent board, they tend to make their own decisions. And so I think we need to dig into what the real authority is on those different topics and those different entities, and make sure that what can be in line is in line.
Lake County Conservation also has its own
Yes.
independent board. Did it also not limit step increases in this reasoning?
I don't know.
So the one thing that
No, we do the county policy.
the other thing too, and with, you know, with each one of these boards too, is they also have funds that get, I don't want to say it intermingled, I'm gonna screw this up, but they have funds that come in that are not regulated by this board necessarily, which is why they have a board. For instance, the Conservation Board has funds that may be donated or
We have a
grounds.
foundation.
A foundation.
We have a foundation and we have our board.
Yep, and so Friends of Lee County Health
Yeah,
Department,
They
they
have a
also.
foundation too.
They
Right,
have a
Yeah.
foundation.
yeah, so that's why where things get complicated, but I think Ginger is absolutely right on the mark, is that we just need to find out what the authority is. The only department that I'm aware of right now that is kind of, doesn't operate strictly by our personnel policy is the health department, I believe, as far as the step increases.
Does Board of Supervisors have the authority to limit the actions of these independent boards?
Probably not, but we can
So we
limit
can-
their
That's what I
funds.
think.
You think we do have the authority?
I think we have more authority than we have used in the past, but I don't know specifically what it is yet. I've been starting to research that. So we'll just see.
Okay.
I think we just need to reach out and get more, we need to work more with these boards too, and make sure that they understand, you know, what we are anticipating, what we expect to see as well, because I think they're doing things that they believe are in the best interest of their organization, which may not exactly line up with what the county is trying to do. So I think it's imperative that we do that, but ultimately we're the power of the purse, Chuck. I mean, as far as what monies we give.
And it's a balance.
And it's a balancing act. And, you know, we just want to make sure that the services that are provided to the citizens, the taxpayer, because that's what the taxpayer pays for. They expect the service, but they expect it done at a rational, reasonable rate.
But as you pointed out, they have other sources of funding, which we really don't have any leverage over.
Right.
We don't.
But those things don't pay payroll.
That's what I was thinking, grants don't.
Right, in the case,
They operate.
but in the case of the health department, that's not necessarily true, because they have federal and state grants that each have their own requirements for staff pay and all kinds of, so they actually are impacted by their outside funds.
And they do pay.
Greatly.
Some of them do.
That is
Yes.
payroll, a lot of it.
Payroll related. Some of them
Yes.
do. Some of
Yes.
them do. Yes. We have a few accounts that are payroll related. So
Mhm.
I get their grant,
Stipulations, requirements.
the contracts every year, because the state auditors want them.
And there's quite a few.
Yeah,
But-
there is quite a few.
And again, I just want to say that I think it's refreshing that, you know, hey, the health department's reaching out and Ginger's reaching out and they've agreed to look at this. So I think that's, everybody's on the same sheet of music.
Oh,
Everybody wants to get things
lined up.
But it would be nice to have the steps match.
Yes.
I mean, it would be nice. I agree. The steps would be nice to be matched because there is a lot of differentiation in the steps. Yeah, increases. Sorry.
No, we don't.
I need a
No.
motion.
Motion.
Move to approve the personal actions.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the personnel actions. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Commission and committee reports. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
I just received an email from Rhonda Sloffer, who is the executive director of Mississippi Valley Workforce Development. She states that she's informing us that the one-stop operator contract between Mississippi Valley and the contractor Equus Workforce Solutions ended April 30th. So currently they don't have an operator for the one-stop operations in Burlington and Davenport. She goes on to say that Mississippi Valley will initiate a competitive procurement process with the goal of having a new one-stop operator by August 1st of this year. And also the Planner Commission is meeting this evening at 6 p.m. at Lost Creek Cemetery to do a little work. That's it.
So let's see, last week I had Lee County Health Department EMS building meeting. It was specifically focused on just basically the operations, where we're at as far as the building and things like that. It didn't really deal with finance. We've got a finance meeting this Thursday, Wednesday. Did I say Thursday?
It's tomorrow.
Wednesday. Yep. Tomorrow.
I'll keep you straight.
I got you. But so there was basically 4 big items that came out of that. We are trying to keep the meetings to 1 hour. We are going to meet again. I'm going to get that out here real quick on 15 May at 1 p.m. So I initially said last week that we're going to try once a month. We decided after that meeting that probably every 2 weeks we needed to at least initially here till we get everybody on the same sheet of music. But some of the big stuff that was discussed was, and I'm going to bring it up right off the get-go, is the generator. There was Mark's not still. So the generator was discussed. Originally, there was a generator, then the generator was taken out, and then the generator that was put back into the scope of work for the thing is designed specifically not to run the entire building, all functions of the building, but it was, in the interest of saving money, was de-scoped, if you will, to a point where it will run refrigeration, emergency lighting, and the doors, the ambulance doors. But it wouldn't run the building for an extended period of time, like air conditioning and things of that nature. That would be something that we'd be looking to, hopefully, in that short term, if there was a major incident in the county, that hopefully we'd be bringing in other resources from other places to get all power restored to everybody. But it would keep the building functional from a standpoint of we wouldn't lose any medications that we've already got, which is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
So would it keep the MS bay air conditioned?
No, they would not.
Then we would lose the medication if it's not.
No, the medications are in the refrigerated, and the medications that are in the ambulances are within the ambulances.
So what?
And the other thought process.
We shouldn't lose them, but we will have to move them.
Yeah.
Because they are all climate controlled. We don't carry much in the way of refrigerated medications, but it would lead to a situation where ambulances would be idling nonstop to keep the stuff in the trucks warm, and anything in the building we would have to take out and move to another building.
Yeah, or you'd probably be out on the call if something like that's going on.
Yeah.
Well, some trucks would, but not necessarily backup trucks.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And the other thought process being that if, depending on how catastrophic something was, you could, in theory, operate out of Allison or Keokuk and then have a truck stationed in the Fort Madison area if it was that catastrophic. But the idea being we didn't want to lose the medications. I know they're, according to
The health department.
the health department, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of medications.
Some have to be refrigerated, some have to be frozen.
Yeah. So that was the discussion with the generator. There was significant discussion on signage that took place, which there was a decision made on that one as far as out front. It's going to have the Mellor
Family Health Center.
Mellor Family Health Center across the top, and then underneath that, it's going to have signage for the Lee County Health Department and Emergency Medical Services will be underneath it on the front of the building. Lighted behind with a front, I guess, like cap that goes over it. So if it needed to be changed out, it'd be easily changed out. It'd be cost effective to be able to do that if we needed to do that. Here's the last 2 are bigger ones that I gotta be honest with you, took me a little bit by surprise.
Before you move on that generator issue, how much is the county saving by going to a smaller generator? Is it worth it, considering all the trouble Mark would have to go through to save medication in the health department?
So we're going to talk money this Thursday or Wednesday.
The
Tomorrow.
one in
Because
Keokuk does the whole building, right? If something happens.
So it would be a significantly larger.
Well, yeah.
And the thing that I'm working right now with the finances that we're going to discuss tomorrow is to determine. There's 2 things right now that I'm concerned with. One, the generator was in, the generator was out. The question is, was there money for the generator in? And so we need to determine that, one. And then the cubicles, which is the next thing I was going to talk about, which is an interesting thing. So in our cost savings, when we had the original document that was drawn two and a half years ago. And we did the valued engineering, and we determined that the furniture could be moved from the health department to, instead of buying new furniture, we were just going to take the furniture we had and move the furniture in as a cost saving measure. So we eliminated furniture. Right? But what we didn't know, and here's the big but, is I and no one else thought that furniture equals cubicles. So right now, which to me equals walls, and because cubicles that are out there, and these were not just your normal cubicles either. They were specialized cubicles in that you had the cubicles, but you also had sound protection that went to the top because of the HIPAA requirements that are in there. But those were removed with the furniture removal. So what I've got them doing right now, Mark, make sure that I'm staying on task. You're me too, and I'm saying this right. So what I've asked at this point is to see what the cost is going to be to have the cubicles, not necessarily furniture, unless, like for instance, a desk is built into the cubicle, in which case we would end up with the desk as part of the cubicle because it's part of the physical structure. What that cost would be to have it put back in there. So that would be either a change order or an addition. If we removed it, it would be an addition, as in not part of the original bid. If we can do it as a change order, then it would be a change order and we'd be just adding it in. Either way, it's an additional cost. And I'm working on finding out what that cost is. When I had them do the initial lookup to say, hey, what was the overall furniture budget?
It was over 100,000.
It was
134,000.
Yeah, it was like 134,000. So it should be something south of that. I just don't know how far south of
Does
that.
that include like counters and things like that too, or?
No, it would only, the counters are in it.
That's built in.
That's built in, but anything that would be a part of the cubicle system, which may be desks, which actually may help us out in that some of our desks are 6 foot. And so, and the walls in those cubicles are 6 foot. And so if they're there, maybe, because we're still working on how we're going to get what desk will fit, what desk won't fit inside the cubicles that right now we had cut, not knowing we cut. So the bottom line is we've got to get the cubicle back in. So I'll be bringing that to the board at some point.
And it appears as though the money for that is still in the budget. It's just not in the scope of work for the contractor.
Right. So that's why I don't want to ring alarm bells saying, hey, but they're not providing the cubicles. Is what Canco basically said, is that what I understood it to be is that the money was there, but that was going to be provided by us. And I'm like, what, we got to go out and shop for cubicles? Hey, while you're building the building, you should just go ahead and put them in. I mean, we want a finished building when we get done. So I'll be bringing that back to the board.
So at current time, the architects are shopping for cubicles for us.
Okay.
So.
As are the health department staff.
There we go. So, which is, I'm glad we had the meeting.
Yeah.
So, security systems was another one that I wrote down. Security systems. I wrote down Kevin. Previous drawing. I think
Door lock.
Yeah.
Door locks. I think.
We're talking about door access and security cameras.
There we go. So we're working through that piece. Just to give everybody kind of an update, and Mark, again, keep me on track. Framing is at 99%, wiring's at 95%, interior installing of drywall will be taking place over the next month, exterior installing and siding will be taking place. Compaction testing is due for paving this week on the leveling and grading that has been done. The drywall should be complete by the end of June is the goal. Okay, later cubicles signing. Still on track for an October-November punch list was the brief that we got. And again, our next meeting is scheduled for 15 May 2025 at 1 p.m.
We will probably change that meeting time.
Okay.
There's conflict with this group. It may be virtual.
Okay. So that was in essence that meeting. Do we have, if anybody's got any questions on that? If not,
Yeah,
but
did they just give you a figure for your security and that, or did they, for your door locks and all that, did they just put an amount in there? Without even asking you what you really thought?
Oh, no, they're not
Okay.
providing that system, we are.
Okay,
So I don't have a quote yet for the system.
is that coming out of your budget or the,
No,
no?
it's been out of the building budget.
Okay.
Now,
Alright.
similar to what he was talking about with the furniture, the cubicle, we believe that, or I guess Jared mentioned, that it was in the estimate of the project, but it wasn't provided by the builders. So when they included, I think it was $100,000 for electronics, for the technology. So that would be part of that.
Okay, is that enough?
Yeah, I think for that,
Is it?
for the door access and the cameras, that should be. My gut, I don't.
Right, no, I know. Okay.
so again, so what we're finding out is we're getting to a point now where the outside structure is built, but some of the finer details of there's funding there, but
Who's doing it?
but for Canco, they're looking at us going, okay, this is to be user provided. In other words, you got money there for it, but we're not buying it. You're telling us what we're putting in the hole. You got the money. What are we buying?
But it's been budgeted.
But it's been budgeted. So that's why we're going to start having more and more of these meetings to make sure that we're on track. And Mark's been doing a good job working with individuals throughout this, but it just will make us more aware of what's going on. Okay. Is there anything else on that? If not, my next meeting was with the health department. I'll let Ginger, I'm sure we'll have stuff from the health department. This coming week, I've got a Port Authority meeting at 11 tomorrow. And then the financial meeting is at 1 here. Thursday, at Lee County Economic Development, there's a leadership graduation that I planned on attending at 11. And then there's what was deemed a super board meeting by Lee County Economic Development at 4 o'clock on Thursday, where I think all of us received an invitation to that. So that's it for on Thursday. Did that, we talked about that. Courthouse discussion, we talked about that. Just an FYI to everybody, I don't know how many people have been talking with those state legislatures, but or been watching the news, but it seems like they're probably going to be in session for at least the next 2 weeks, this week and probably next week. So they're going past the end by at least a week, if not 2 weeks, from what I understand. So they're still working on the budget. And right now, the feel I'm getting is 50-50 whether they're doing something or not doing something with the property taxes. So I don't know. Every day it seems like, yeah. So they'll work it. That's their job to work out. I'm glad I'm not having to work that out. Not that. I think that's all I've got.
Well, this last week it was kind of a quiet week. I didn't have a whole lot of anything, but this week I've got, we have the ITC power line. They're having a meeting at Quality out there at 1. I'm gonna go to that one. I got a meeting with Kevin later on this afternoon. It's IT stuff. Tomorrow, Friday in the afternoon, and then Thursday we have that Super Bowl meeting like we was talking about, and then also I know one of the Silver Sport that I got the meeting for that one. I have to double check on that. That's it for this week. So nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
Everybody's out there. It could be.
Seems to be how it works.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Ginger.
Well, Board of Health, we talked throughout the day here already about quite a few things, but, one thing of note is that through March, the health department had spent 37% of their tax ask at 75% of the year. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
They continue to investigate ways to save money. And they truly are being very proactive about that. And they have come to me on multiple occasions to discuss different things. And like we've discussed, we're gonna be diving into those wage scales tomorrow. And so I'm really, really pleased to see how that's going. They're being very collaborative and doing a good job.
And they're, I think that's important what Ginger's saying is that they're working hard at it and they're coming in month over the last 2 months. I know that I've attended, they've come in, they've had more revenue than they've had expenditure, which that's always nice. And then I think the thing that stuck out to me too at the meeting was the idea that they're even researching
Cell phones.
Yes.
$400 a month savings. Yeah, so I mean, they're looking at everything. They're doing a great job. I'm real happy. And gearing up to work across departments on the new build and communicating back and forth what is needed, what is expected, things like that. So that's going well. Quad County DCAT was the shortest meeting ever. It was like 18 minutes. They're in a bit of a frozen state, like a lot of different state-funded entities, and closing out some programs and just waiting to see what else is going to be sustained or not, really after FY26. So that was a super quick meeting, really not much to report there. I attended the Keokuk Community Foundation 20-year gala. That was really nice, I thought. Really uplifting just to hear about all the good work and the people that volunteer year after year, decades at a time. So that was great.
Mike Hickey Lofton Award, that was.
Yes.
What was that?
It's,
Mike Hickey.
Yeah, won the, I believe it was the Lofton Award. So when they read all the stuff
What he had done.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was pretty impressive.
Yeah, a very humble guy, but a guy that is.
He looks very uncomfortable.
He did look
being
very,
recognized.
he did look very uncomfortable, but I can tell you what, that guy, you know, he's got his fingerprints on a lot of things, and thank God he does.
Yep. Yep.
He practiced what he never learned.
Mike's a good guy.
I had a constituent call about concerns for cuts to Meals on Wheels. I hadn't realized that had been affected by the federal. Yeah, apparently they've been affected by the federal cuts, so. Federal, yeah. So, I connected them, with Penny Bassick at Senator Grassley's office, and she was gonna have a staffer that was more knowledgeable about that particular, line item, get back to them.
Is that in effect already or going to come?
It sounded like they were already experiencing some shortfalls. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, well. I also attended City Council, Keokuk City Council. I was concerned that the wording of their last meeting had a hearing notice for a $1 million loan. But they clarified that was part of that 5.5 bond, not in addition to. That was my concern, was that we were jumping into some new monies just a week after budgets were due.
Yeah.
But apparently they just needed to clarify the use of that particular piece. So that was good. Also had another family that was needing some help navigating the HHS system, specifically in terms of disabilities. And so been running that up the chain. Actually, I've been communicating with Director Garcia about it because we're really stalling out on local efforts, and I'm not sure where the lack of communication happens, but it's been about every other day back and forth, still no calls, no help, still can't go to work. So I think there's been a start to communication there, but nothing super gratifying. So I'm still working on that one. And in the ECI world, it appears that we're good for FY26. I have not seen a contract yet between the state and my board, but they've given us our draft allocations and our contract templates between the board and our contractors. So until we get the state contract, we can't sign the local contracts,
Yeah.
but that's where.
Whatever.
Mhm. That's all I have.
All right, thanks. I had a meeting with Gary and the auditor about, possibly hiring, an HR person. She had an employee that resigned, so, we had that meeting and, going to the ITC Midwest 12:30 today, Quality Inn. And tomorrow also Ginger and I are meeting with Ryan to try to have a plan of attack on, what's gonna happen with her department since she's resigned. So, she's still on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, congratulations, the state's getting a good employee. Ryan, we're losing. And then I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the general plan that we received last week, but, do we wanna put it on next week for a little discussion maybe about it, or are you ready, or no?
The issue with it is that the vast majority of data is just completely.
Oh, sure. Yeah, outdated.
I mean, it's so old.
Yeah, it is.
I welcome a discussion on it at any time.
Okay.
But, where it's gonna require some gathering of data to even have a baseline of where we're at.
No, regional planning did the original one, and it was done because of the fertilizer plants, I believe.
And I think we should probably also include in the conversation, or at least invite her to be included, Emily, with Lee County Economic Development, because I did ask her, what if she had a copy of it, if she'd seen it, and she had.
She had.
And it dovetails, even though it's maybe not, well, it hasn't really been updated or really anything done with it in recent history. It dovetails, I believe, into a lot of other plans. And so I think that we may want to make sure before we would get to.
And I think that's the direction that I've been talking about for quite a while, is that there is a lot of work that's been done in our community on strategic plans that a lot of the groundwork's been done. We need to bring them together and see where the common goals are, where the common themes are. Obviously, housing, transportation, childcare. I mean, quality of life, trails. I mean, the themes are there throughout all these plans. It's just bringing them together to create a common vision.
And there are some significant things going on in the county that I think that I do agree with you, though, that plan needs to be updated. But I think with all these other plans that may have had more attention and been updated more frequently, maybe if we were to look at those plans, and then those would give us a roadmap to just bring ours up to date and current. Because I think at the time that general plan drove a lot of these other plans, and now we just need to bring this one up to date.
Mm-hmm.
But I would almost look at Emily might be a person, I hate to put more on her plate because she's got a ton on it, but she might be a person that would be able to help us as to what all those other strategic plans are that would help us bring our overall county plan up to date.
I think she'd already have a lot of that information that's
Yes.
already updated.
Yeah. So
like a workshop maybe next week, if she can make it. Would you ask her?
Yes.
Okay, anybody have anything else? And we can adjourn the meeting then. Thank you.
So kind of on that theme of thought, I've essentially kind of taken on REAP committee chair, essentially. And so what that means is I reached out to all the communities and asked them to come to the table and bring me their strategic plans so I can create a master plan. Because at the REAP level, which is the grant money for the DNR, they no longer, you have to have a 10-year plan. And we have to have an annual meeting. So basically, I'm bringing all those people to the table and saying, we need a plan, a comprehensive plan, in order to apply for funding.
It covers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's being done.
Great.
So, but I do think it's kind of I'm getting those fingers, of information from Keokuk, Donaldson, Port, those kind of things. So just letting you know that that's happening in the background.
And you can allow that rate funding to accumulate from year to year, can't you?
Okay, you're talking two different things. For conservation, we get REAP funding and we can accumulate, but that's separate than applying for this other grant money. I know it's really confusing.
What am I signing? It's one bad thing is we didn't have paper clips on these, and I was afraid to put it all through. You probably have to do. Let's go put it back together after that.
Yes.
On what?
EMS billing.
Oh.
I know.
She's like,
we had.
Here, see this.
That sounds terrible. I mean, I'm good. Heather, you don't want to.
Oh, wait,
say. No.
That might be that.
This resolution.
We're looking at every month.
Supposed to come back with it.
I'm gonna be putting.
When I get just a blank sheet
shirts
of paper, I go,
Did you want a red one? I did. Okay.
He's signing just a, there you go.
I know I had 2 paper clips, so the first 2 I did.
I have a paper clip right here. I don't know where it came from.
In the military, I used to yell out to the not front, I'd yell radar.
Just a picture graph.
Why am I signing? I feel like blank. Every blank.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. If they're blank, it's usually the back end of a resolution that. But if I do it the next time, I'll make sure I have paper clips. Do you want one? Okay, but I also added a few pictures there. I will go find that check. That I talked to you about. Here's the ones that each needs to sign.
But it doesn't need to show when they're in the letter where they're in it. It just goes to the Mississippi River and map that I saw.
Right, that's all I got to.
And there's no indication of whether they're TVs supplying anything in between. Nothing on the map.
Well, and also I saw on IPC's website, or Googled it yesterday, there's another one from through Des Moines, McHenry County, to that, this subject.
I didn't try to hear for this.
Yeah, I forgot to put it. Look at her. Is there a time frame? Well, I know that. I only have one bill. But
benefits us.
like I went back and I looked at my last week with the 4th January.
Yeah.
So I got the remark April. And I got all my birthdays. I didn't want to make sure. This one, this big, watch this.
It's just like forecast.
Hey, I don't do for driving to work.
No, I don't either.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that one. But I drive to so many meetings now. I'm in Burlington.
Oh, I know.
It seems like Burlington at least once a week, if not once every other week.
Yeah.
Montrose all the time. And it seems like I've been getting more and more here.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Is that it?
That's just there.
Signing.
Yep.
I love your exit, we're just walking on here, you know.
Oh,
Walk the office,
Denise.
walk back, walk the.
Oh.
And I will send you a copy of the signed.
Okay.
Bill, the health department.
Here's all the ones that you only have to sign.
Just walk back. Not the health department, county, New Jersey, once a year. He walks back and forth.
Well, I drove over, so today I drove.
His mileage will be in the parachute.
Yeah, see if I can get this all put back together.
We're doing now.
Oh, I was wondering if I
Yeah.
could run off with my piece of paper.
Which newspaper was that one?
It was the.
I brought them all over here, but everything we signed this year.
I will bring it back, but I'm leaving for Annie.
Did you get a couple things put together?
Oh, was it something only one
Yeah,
person
that
had to
was a
sign?
resolution.
Denise would have that if it's only one signature.
I got mail.
These have been sitting there for a long time.
Where's the mail thing? I don't even have mail.
It's on, I just sort of, let's take it back. So, Merry
Did you say the ITC meeting was at 12:30?
Yes.
Hotel, yeah. Is this yours?
I may try to make it.
Yes, 12:30.
No,
No?
It's the one.
This one?
right
Okay,
there.
all right, okay.
How's the thumb? Looks sore.
Better.
Better.
I can move it. It doesn't. It's a little numb, but it doesn't really hurt anymore. I had the nurse practitioner told me that they're gonna have to remove it, so I had an appointment at orthopedics yesterday. And he's coming in. He's like, you really don't want that removed. And he did like 10 minutes to tell me why. I'm like,
Okay, right, give me a call.
Not
I
arguing.
was
Works for
gonna
you,
be,
doesn't it?
but yeah,
I'm not
I think we
arguing.
should actually grind out it pretty quick. Yeah, as soon as we get some of
And
that
I
flavor
already,
down there.
signed
Just kind of let
it.
me know what.
Okay,
what you guys
she
need.
handed it to me.
So we gotta have it, so whatever it takes to
I know
get,
last week I
the
took
play down there, and then we can also actually drop off maybe a couple of the play. You'll see on the road out there.
yeah, I'll bring it back, but I'm trying to get this in this morning because I'm leaving for Ames.
I just thought we'd replay
Yeah,
the package.
we got to scan in.
As well,
If you
so
wanna
if you
keep
just
it.
drop off, we'll pack it in. I just need to play it through with 14 minutes. Give me a call, thanks.
I'll scan it and bring it back.
Okay.
You
Guys ready?
Ready when you are.
All right.
Okay, so down at the marina.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, you just want that too. So we get this very kindly, Sarah sends this every month, and then I have no idea what I'm looking at. So I asked her if she would come in and help us try to understand.
So we have Mariah online here. Mariah is our account manager with PCC.
Okay.
So these come from them, and then we pass them on to you.
Okay.
We could go through them with you, but she can go through them with you much
Okay.
better than I can.
Yeah,
So.
Just a basic understanding.
Okay. Which report do you want to start with? What order do you have them in?
I have the financial summary first.
Okay.
Okay, so this report goes back to July 1, the start of this current fiscal year, and it runs all the way to the month that we've closed and entered charges and billed Lee County for. So this goes all the way through March. Basically, this indicates where your beginning AR was, what you can see at the top all the way through where it is currently.
Mariah, what's AR?
It's receivable.
Accounts
receivable. Okay, all right.
And it breaks it down based on how many charges have been entered, how many contractual adjustments, and those contractual adjustments would be like any payers that you're contracted with. So you're gonna have Medicare adjustments, you're gonna have Blue Cross Blue Shield. I don't know how detailed you want, so if I'm getting into the woods, just holler at me. So
Okay.
basically, and it goes all the way down to what's been sent off to collections, what refunds there are or have been issued, what payments have come in, whether it's an insurance payment or a patient payment, and then it talks about what your net payments are. So currently, as of March, your total net payments are $1.9 million in payments, and that's actually an increase from last year. At this time, we were at It's an increase of $449,000 from last year at this exact time. So, and that's even down 235 billable calls. So that's.
Do you see that as being a trend, or is it just a fluke?
It's hard to say. We've been trying to, I think a lot of this is flushing out with situations that we've had with the hospital. In the last 30 to 60 days, we have been trying to clean up our accounts receivable with what is outstanding at the hospital. So I think a lot of that is flushed out from last year.
What is bad debt write-off?
That would be what is going to collections.
Okay. Okay. And what's your success rate on that? Getting some of that?
So we send that to a different company.
Okay.
That goes to a company that actually puts it out. We just started in February, but we can take it off of people's state income taxes.
Okay.
So I think we're up like $17,000 on that we've gotten from February.
Just since February.
Yeah, our collection agency states that PCC does a good job of like trying to contact the people and getting the debt before we send it there, because they never get a lot of phone calls saying, well, I never knew I owed this bill or anything. So we haven't had a lot of success up until we decided to get an income taxes.
Courtesy discounts? What are courtesy discounts?
That would be, I have Brittany in here from our payment department with me, but I will have to check. I think there's something itemized in the background that actually I believe they go to collections as well, but it could be,
Not a lot.
I'm not sure. I'll do some checking on that and I will get back to Mark and Sarah and let them know.
Okay.
Those actually, now, I'm sorry, I believe they're actually no estates. So when a patient is deceased, we do everything in our power to obviously collect the funds if the patient has an open probate. But if there's no way to collect any of those funds, there's nothing that can be done. I believe that courtesy discount is for those no estates.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Mark, I see that looks like about 4 times a day you have a no charge ticket.
Yep.
Are those oftentimes repeat people who take advantage of you?
No charge, that would be like the lift assist. So.
And is it the same people over and over again?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. We have had some repeat people, but we also go a lot of times to non-repeat people. Kind of a combination.
What I've seen on the fire department is really dependent on when you start having those, you have them for a period of time, usually 6 months to up to a year, and then the situation resolves itself. Right. Because you're calling, they need help, and then they're either they go to a facility where now they're in a facility or they pass. But unfortunately, we all get toward the end of life, and we've had this discussion a couple times as a board, whether we wanted to or not wanted to charge. There is a system in place at the ambulance to where if there is someone doing kind of what you're talking about, where it seems to we get a call for, it's more of a social event, maybe where they're calling just so they have somebody that comes to talk, and we say, hey, we can't do that. If you're going to keep doing this, we could charge you.
Yeah.
But,
can we do that? Can we charge them then if we forewarn them?
Yeah.
But we have not.
We haven't done that for a long time.
We've not done that for a long time. And generally, the people that will get a call on something like that would probably be me or Tim as the liaisons to go, hey, what are we doing? Because, of course, then there will be potentially other implications.
Ultimately, we don't want them to not call if it's needed.
And that's the big fear. That's what was the discussion on the board, is that, hey, if we implement this, then you're going to have people that truly do need help, and they may lay on the floor and not call.
Yeah.
And we do not want that.
The only times that we've ever done that, and this has been a long time ago, it was people that were calling literally every day and sometimes multiple times a day.
Yeah.
For over a month at a time. And
I think the crew does a good job too of, you know, when they call, if they show up at a house, hey, no.
And we try to educate and we carry resources in the ambulance for where they can find, you know, how they can get with like home health, different home health agency options, different nursing home options. So we do provide that to people first. You know, we want to see the best outcomes for people, not just go in and, yeah, you're still calling us, let's do it. But,
Also can add in on that no charge ticket, those could also be like canceled calls or standbys where, you know, they get canceled on the way there. So it isn't truly like for January of 24, it wasn't really that they responded to 124 patients and didn't, you know, bill for those. It could be a canceled call or a standby or a no patient was found or anything of that nature. So.
Okay. And there's not a whole lot. Okay.
other specific questions on that form or?
Mariah, next they have the annual collection statistic.
Okay, so this report goes all the way back to October of 2022. This just shows what was, you know, how many charges there were, how many payments were collected, contractual adjustments, your uncollected, and what's pending. And obviously the AR balance obviously typically matches where that, and you know, the top is the pending. This goes all the way to the current month of March of 25. So you'll see we had $585,000 in charges. And we collected out of that 18,000 in the month of March. So I believe when I was there, it was pretty accurate to the same when I was there in February. Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It might have been a little more than that, but you know, typically you want obviously as many payments in the month that they happen as possible. This report doesn't go all the way back to your prior to all of the billing that's outstanding. It cuts off at October of 22. We usually go back about 30 months to show what's outstanding. But a lot of these older accounts are situations that stem all the way back from Dana that we're still trying to resolve and fight with insurance companies on. We have very little success with that because we don't have access to obviously what Dana had done. So we're doing the best we can with what we have as far as cleaning up her stuff, but everything else seems to be working. And a lot of the pending balances too that we would have billing for, a lot of those are self-pay balances that are on a payment plan, or we're still fighting with a work comp insurance or an auto insurance. So.
So the net collected there, that's what I always look at. I think like the least we have was like 91% in the later months, so that's, I think that's pretty awesome that they're getting that much back.
Yeah.
7, 6,
Questions on that sheet?
Mariah, I'm not sure if I sent you this one, but I gave them the level of care summary, just the ALS versus BLS calls.
Sure. So this just breaks it down based on level of service. You'll see your ALS calls for the month of March are at just about 70% and BLS is at 30, which that's pretty close to the national average actually. Getting below that 50, once you get to that 60%, that's when Medicare tends to start inquiring about audits, like why are you an ALS service, but you're not keeping up to the national standard. So this is always a good one to look at, I think, more or less from Mark's perspective, just to make sure that we are providing the level of care that needs to be provided on scene, and that's flowing over into documentation and over into billing. So this would be a good report card as far as you guys are in line with the national standards for an ALS service. So
I think the other thing to note too, this is where I'd go for an argument if anybody wanted to try to say that, hey, maybe we don't need to have as much of an ambulance arrives, because so a lot of places like, and I don't want to point at other counties, but we got some counties across the border into Missouri that really, when they show up, you're not receiving a paramedic. You're just receiving somebody who picks you up, puts you in the ambulance, and drives you to the hospital. But there's not a lot of care going on. ALS, advanced life support, that the paramedics are doing something to help save your life. It's not just we put a Band-Aid on it and we drove you to the hospital.
Good to know. Yeah. Okay.
The next one they have is the cash receipt summary by payer group.
okay, so this report breaks it down by who you're receiving your payments from. So over 50% of your payments are coming from Medicare or the Medicare replacement plans. It looks like your next biggest one is going to probably be Wellmark, Blue Cross Blue Shield. And both of those payers, we talked about this when I was there in February, both those payers are contracted, so they pay according to their specific fee schedule. So we can't really collect, or we can't collect any more than what is already on those contracted fee rates. So otherwise, all the other payers besides Medicaid and the Medicaid MCOs, which is part of the Medicaid MCOs are part of the GMT program for ground emergency ambulance transports. That's another big source of your income on a monthly basis. There was some lag in March because Molina wasn't processing claims. They hadn't been processing claims since about the end of January, beginning of March. So you'll see that might be down compared to normal. But other than that, everything looks pretty consistent.
How does Molina get away with that?
They just do it.
Good question.
I thought there was some kind of state code that was adopted a few years back that required them to pay within a certain period of time, like 60 days or 90 days. Is that not in effect?
Well, if it is, I'd like to know that code because there are times they don't pay. I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened with a Medicaid MCO. But we have, on a regular basis, we have trouble with them processing claims in general. I mean, it's a pretty consistent thing across the state.
I think it's interesting to note on the patient side, it's 2.7%. So that's actually being paid, because I've only ever really gotten one call, but I had one gal that somehow in their mind, she thought that they just write off the entire ambulance bill. But I think that's a good number to have kind of in the back of my head to go, hey, for the cost of what it costs the county to provide this service, you guys are really only paying about 2.7%.
Yeah, I had a call about the same topic.
Yeah.
People are going to have a copay, even though they have insurance, they're going to have a copay.
Right.
They may not realize that, but, or a deductible.
Yeah. And with the MCOs, I have a feeling Molina's going to be the next one to pull out.
Oh, yeah.
That's this is kind of the pattern that the other ones did, where they quit paying and then
This is federal that we're talking about, or
state.
state?
It's a state contract. You got Molina, you got
Iowa Total Care.
Ameriprise.
Ameriprise.
No,
Not AmeriGroup anymore.
they checked on.
WellPoint.
There's 3 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think it could be down to 2 here. This next section.
Thank you, good on that one. Okay.
So the next one they have is the aged accounts receivable by payer. it's kind of just more of a little bit more breakdown of what your graph was that we just had.
Yep, so this is more of a breakdown of what's in the annual collection statistics. So it doesn't really break it down by, it tells you how many days or how old the claim might be, or that amount of money might be. You'll see the biggest payer that we're having the most trouble with would be the hospital. And that's listed under Southeast Iowa Regional Medical Center. And we actually had a call with them yesterday to hope flush out some of this outstanding AR.
What's the reason, why is it that they are so far in the arrears? You'd think they would understand that bills need to be paid.
Yeah, what I gathered from yesterday, it's internal training issues. Mark, Sarah, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong from what I gathered from it.
So we've a few times changed the process with them for determining. So a lot of the transfers we do are not the hospital's responsibility. Most of them are the patient's responsibility. But there are some that Medicare and Medicaid insurance won't pay because it's an inpatient transfer. So those the hospital pays us directly. We've been trying to work out a process with them for a while to really kind of streamline how we know which ones we bill to the hospital. They've had a lot of turnover in their department that handles that. And so there's been a few times they've reached out. We've tried changing processes. I think our meeting yesterday was pretty productive. I think we've got something figured out now. We've seen more movement in the last couple of days than we had in a while from them. So I really expect this to get cleaned up. We have another follow-up meeting scheduled to make sure that we're staying on top of it. Thing to know too when we're looking at that AR is, and Mariah, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not all necessarily for sure money that they owe us. A lot of it is calls that we don't know if that goes to the patient or to the hospital. And so we're waiting for the hospital to tell us, yeah, that's our responsibility, or you need to bill that to a patient. We had some of them here recently that we went ahead and billed to the patient because we couldn't get that answer from the hospital. If it turns out it's the patient's responsibility, then their insurance should pay it. If not, then it gets denied, which is what happened with some of them. They got kicked back to us because they were denied by insurance, saying, hey, that's not our problem, that's the hospital's problem. But doing it that way all the time is adding way more work than we should have to do and creating denials that we shouldn't have to get. So that's why we're trying to fix that.
Are these transports mostly coming from the South Campus here in Fort Madison, or are you going up to Burlington?
These are almost all from Fort Madison to Burlington. And they're almost all from med-surg to med-surg or med-surg or site to site. They're not ER transfers necessarily.
I think the other thing that too that we noted, when they do catch up, they do catch up. So they as far as them denying a payment, they don't really generally deny a payment.
Well, and another thing too, another piece to this puzzle is when they pay the bill, they pay 100% of the bill.
Right.
Yeah, they're one of our only payers that pays exactly what we bill. They've never asked for a reduced rate. They've never asked to, so we get a big chunk of money from them when they pay. It's just getting them to pay on that consistent basis, which, I'm hopeful that we're there now, but like Mariah said, we just met with them yesterday, so we'll see how the process that we really put in place yesterday works, and I can follow up with you after we do that for a month and see how it goes.
The other thing is we definitely want to work with our local hospital.
Yeah.
Because we want, obviously we've seen what happened in Keokuk. We want to maintain the hospital in Fort Madison. We want to maintain our hospital in Burlington so that we have that asset in the region, one. And again, when they pay 100%. So that's good for us. The thing that I've seen over the last, ever since we started this thing, and I'm sure Denise has seen as well, is that I'm just glad we got the billing company we've got, and we've got Sarah doing what Sarah does. Because it has cleaned up the process and it allows us to do what we're doing today, right? Go and get down in the weeds and nitpick something, whereas before, we didn't have a clue. I mean, there was no, it was scary, quite frankly, at times. You get halfway through the year and you'd look at your revenue and it would be very bad. You know, and then all of a sudden, third quarter would roll around and all of a sudden come rolling in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, but your first 6 months, you didn't see much of anything. So these are all great reports and can give us some timely stuff to dig into. But I think what we budgeted this last, was it 2.4? 2.3? 2.3.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting in March at 2, right? 1.9, 2.
We're right at 2. I know our revenues, so when
just
Cindy
gave
sends
out
our
budget reports.
reports Friday, our revenues are like almost 10% over, and our expenditures are at least 5% under, if not more.
So I can tell you, having done this now for 3 or 4 years, because when they get sent, I take a look at them and then I go, and it used to drive me insane. I'm surprised I didn't have an ulcer. But now, I mean, I feel really good. I think we're definitely going to hit that 2.3 mark. I think that our budgeting process has become more where it's more of a dependable process, whereas before, our very first year, I don't even want to go back and say, but we missed the mark by a lot. And now we're into a position where our budget has become much more stable, and I credit that again. Market leadership, Sarah, Jason, and PCC doing what they do. So, bravo.
Yeah.
And this is the report I use for the financials.
Oh, okay.
The one thing I would ask, and this is probably more Mark than, I don't know, PCC deals with this or not. So, could you talk to me a little bit as we're going into the summer? And I should have prepped you for this, and I didn't. So I'm going to throw you a curveball out of nowhere, see if you hit it out of the park or not. But standbys for events and stuff, because I'm going to guess you're going to be going into the summer with the Watermelon Festival, Lee County Fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
So,
all that
Do we
stuff.
want to let her go?
But,
Yeah. Or do you think we have anything else for PCC?
I don't.
I mean, I just thought,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Mary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email.
Okay, all
Thank
right.
you.
This helped. Thank you. Okay. All right, go ahead, Jerry, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious about that one thing, because I know we're getting into the fairs, and I know it taxes you guys when they do that, but I know that we also have a with the new board members, I want to make sure they.
yeah, so with standbys, there's basically 2 different ways we handle those. And that's a dedicated ambulance or a ambulance that's there, but they aren't 100% dedicated. So example would be the fair. When we send an ambulance, the fair is probably not the best example because there's a lot of different things going on, but we'll say Sweet Corn Festival. When we send an ambulance up there, it's not dedicated, as in if there's a call that comes in Houghton, that ambulance is leaving to go to that call. It's just there because we just typically move like the Donaldson ambulance there because there's a high population in one area that's putting close to where there's, a lot of calls typically.
Versus like rodeo.
Right. And the big difference, aside from the fact that they're just dedicated, is if they're dedicated, we call in an extra crew for that, and then we charge them. So rodeo and the races are our 2 biggest ones. So rodeo, we have 2 trucks out every night, and they pay for both of those trucks. What we charge them covers payroll, fuel. Doesn't make a ton of money, but it makes a small amount over.
But it doesn't cost. It doesn't cost the
No, it doesn't cost anything.
That's good.
Same for the races. Any event like that, and they're motivated to do that also because a lot of those, like rodeo and races, they're required by their governing bodies to have an ambulance there in order to have their performance.
Or the insurance of their event. Their event insurance requires them to have a dedicated ambulance.
Do those payments show up in these reports anywhere?
Yeah, so, and that's one thing I wanted to point out, the difference between, so when you look at what you get, what we made in revenue on these PCC reports, that's just from PCC.
Oh, okay.
So other revenues, like what comes from collections, what comes from these standby events, anything else is not going to be on these reports. So that's why our revenue here shows like 1.9 million for the year, but our actual revenue is like just over 2-ish, I think.
Oh, okay.
So that's outside of the PCC.
Actually, that saves Lee County money because they're not taking their portion of those dollars.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's a good thing for you to know too, just because if you get those calls of, well, the ambulance was here for Watermelon Festival and then it just left. Well, it just left because it wasn't dedicated there. It was an on-duty crew that was just moved there because of the high population in that area. Versus the other call I can see you getting is, well, there was a car wreck right next to the rodeo grounds and an ambulance sat at rodeo and didn't leave to go to it. Well, that's because that ambulance was being paid, to be there dedicated. Doesn't mean we wouldn't ever shift it away, but if we shift it away, they have to shut down their performance. So that's why it's a really big deal, and we have to work with them really closely because of those insurance things we talked about. I'm just using rodeo as one example. There's,
another good one is high school football games and softball, which is going on right now.
So the high school games, we have had that discussion with them. The ambulances there have never been dedicated in the past, and they did not want to go that route now either. So those are not dedicated trucks, but we're always open to that. But we do always do our best to have crews there. On nights where all 3 high schools have home games, it gets kind of thin. So
Hadn't thought about that.
it gets a lot more difficult. We always have one night a year or two that per day that really spreads us rodeo and Labor Day parade and all that stuff going on. That's the one day a year that every ambulance that we own is staffed and out doing something.
And that's why I bring it up, because people look at that and then if they see them present and then they leave. But what they need to understand and keep in mind is that all the schools generally have trainers that are on the sidelines to deal with the basic issues. But the ones that get brought up is if they have a major issue, in which case an ambulance would be called and then coming back to. But then the natural question to the board is going to be, why weren't they there? And so if we just to do that, it would be next to impossible without staffing up every Friday night across the entire county, which would be crazy.
Yeah, so that's, and that really kind of comes back to the school boards. I mean, it's just like you said, we can't, if all 3 schools have a home game, that's 3 of our 4 trucks. We can't take 75% of our on-duty crew and say you can't leave a school, So we would have to staff, bring in extra crews, and if they're willing to pay for that, we're happy to do it.
We just got to balance it.
When a non-dedicated ambulance leaves an event, does another one move in to replace it?
Most of the time not, just because that would be perfect example is Fort Madison. We only have 1 ambulance in Fort Madison. So if we go shift the Fort Madison ambulance to another city to cover one that went out on a call, now there's nobody covering town. So generally we don't do that.
Now, with that being said, though, if there's a call that happens there may be, and that ambulance is engaged, there's an ambulance potentially that's, if it's not engaged, from Donaldson coming back across, or from Keokuk coming up. So, and that's where the captain becomes very important. So I've had people ask me that question too. Why do we have a captain around an SUV? Because that captain is also a response. They're a responding vehicle. They can't transport, so they may be able to deal with, especially something that was a BLS call. They may be able to deal with it and then keep moving. If it's an ALS call, they are a paramedic. They've got the equipment to be able to deal with it. They just can't transport until the transport becomes free. But they're also the one that makes that call when Jason and Mark are not on duty to start moving the pieces around the county to cover the calls as they come in. Is that accurate?
Yep, that's perfect. That is really operational management is their primary job. So making sure that trucks are moved around, assets are moved around so that we're covering everything as well as possible. They also do all the transfer stuff, so going back to the hospitals, they're signing those transfers, making sure that we have coverage for 911 calls.
That's the other piece that I want to come in every chance I get, and I do it. So just get used to it. Mark and Jason have been unbelievable in educating our crews on how to fill, and Sarah probably in looking at the paperwork on the patient care reports, because it really, our billing process starts with the patient care report. What they write down determines what then can go forth in the bill.
Yeah.
If they did it and they didn't write it down,
It didn't happen.
it didn't happen, and we ain't gonna recover it, but we spent the money to do it.
And a lot of that credit goes to PCC too, because they've done a really good job of telling us, hey, this is where you need to improve. This is what, where you need to take that training, whereas some other billing companies didn't maybe do that.
We have a very professional organization.
And that also comes in handy too, if you ever have lawsuits and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
If it's documented, it happened. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. Or you can't back it up. You say, yes, we did this, but you didn't document it, you got no case.
Does PCC provide webinar training then?
They were down 2 months ago, February. 3 of them came down free of charge and put on
Where did they
training.
come from?
They're in South Dakota.
Wow, that's a long drive.
That's part of our contract with them, is they'll provide occasional training. So yeah, they came down and did a whole in-person training with all of our staff. So yeah.
That's good news. You have quite an operation. A lot to think about.
Yeah, I'm amazed at the list of people that you guys collect from, my guys.
These transfers, can you arrange to do those at a slower time, like at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Most of the ones that we do are more emergent. So if they are the ones that are, like I said, med surge to med surge, maybe they just need a bed, or maybe sometimes they're literally going for a procedure like a MRI or something that they don't do here, that they do there, and it's scheduled at another time. So those we can and we will. We'll say, we can't do it now, we can do it 4 hours from now. But the vast majority of our transfers are strokes, heart attacks, stuff like that, that's going for emergency procedures at other facilities. So we can't do that, obviously.
And I seem like, it's probably good. Like if somebody comes from asthma with a heart attack, whatever, and they need to get transported to Quincy, you guys do that, but that gets billed to the patient, I assume, right?
Yes, yeah. If it's coming out of the ER, it's almost always billed to the patient. Or if it's going to another hospital. So it's only inpatient. It can only be inpatient if it's within the Southeast Iowa Regional Medical Center system. So anytime it goes to another hospital, it's going to be a patient's responsibility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For doing this. Yeah. Now when we get our reports, we'll kind of know. Yeah. Month to month. So yeah, I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep.
Anytime you have questions.
All right. Okay. Okay. Guess we're done for the day. 12:30.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, this particular job.
Yeah.